Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling on that. Another thing that I wanted to touch on, again, like I said, I have I got a ton to really go through, but I see that there's about 40 to 50 NBA players right now uh, who are unsure about playing the rest of this season in the playoffs. Um, just because I believe, if a team makes it to the finals, uh, I believe that team would be like away from their families. If they were to make it to the finals, I believe that team would be, or that player would be away from their families for, you know, when it gets to the finals, about 80 days or so. When you think about that, it's almost 3 months, right? And the way that you're hearing that the MLS is gonna test their players and maintain, I guess, their players is that they're basically showing up to the facility, practicing or playing, going back to their hotel rooms, getting 3 meals a day, and literally never ever leaving their hotel rooms. Never. Not having contact with no family. Apparently, no guests certainly. Uh, and you just wonder how many players are gonna sign up for that. Are they really? And there's gonna have to be some sort of I think like provision or something made to fix that, because I just don't think it's gonna be right to keep people away from their families for 80 days or so. That's not right. That doesn't make sense. There's got to be like a better way to do it. Obviously, no one wants to be held accountable or responsible or anything like that, but that is just such a crazy amount of time. I feel like to be away from your family and just be locked away, right? Like, I don't know. Doesn't seem like, I don't know. It's tough to see how NBA players are gonna even go along with that, really. And that actually just kind of makes you think, like, well, if some players aren't going to be willing to maybe sign on to this, there's some players right now who are free agents, who could be like key additions to a team, or could be like that key bench piece or that key role player that could make the difference in a title run. And players, I was just looking at like a small list. I think ESPN posted it earlier today, and they're like, the list they had was like Isaiah Thomas, DeMarcus Cousins, even though he's coming off, I believe, a torn Achilles after like his tore ACL, I believe. Like he was all messed up. I believe he's like healthier now. Because he had like this whole season to really recover. And there was already talks to begin with, before the Lakers waived him, that he might be ready to come back, for the postseason before the whole COVID thing. And now that it's already been a few months later, he might be able to come back and provide someone 10, 15 minutes off a bench, 20 minutes, maybe 20 is an exaggeration, but even still, Isaiah Thomas, DeMarcus Cousins, J.R. Smith, even got like Jamal Crawford, he could still get buckets, dropping a couple trays in there. So I think, but the only thing is, I feel like it'd be weird, to have, those players. I mean, obviously, I feel like, J.R. Smith with like the Lakers or something like that. I think, he could adapt easily and, kind of blend in easily with the team, especially, playing with LeBron previously. And, I think in certain scenarios, even like DeMarcus Cousins going back to Lakers, I think, could work. But obviously, there's certain cap scenarios, and, I know there's not a lot of cap space, especially in like the Lakers scenario right now. But, there could be huge additions that could be made, and that could really help a franchise. And I was also, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, who has the best chance to win like this postseason and win the title this year? And honestly, I do believe it is the Los Angeles Lakers. This is kind of like a must-win season. It was all, I don't want to say it was already a must-win season going into this year, but it kind of was in a way, because, Anthony Davis had like an option on his contract. And I believe it was a player option where he could, opt into the rest of his deal, which I believe was another year or two. Certainly underpaid because, he wants to get like a super max. I believe he is getting the max right now. But he was going to opt out either way and test free agency. Regardless if he was going to go back to the Lakers or maybe go home to Chicago or because that's kind of been like a rumor for a long time with AD, and that's why I think it's kind of like a must win. And LeBron's not getting any younger, and he's still playing at that LeBron top elite level. MVP caliber season again. In his 17th season, and so I think this is the Lakers' year, and I still think that they are the team that can and should win it all. Obviously the Clippers I think are another, like, they're right there, the Los Angeles Clippers. Especially this time off not only helps the Lakers rest and all that and recoup, but it also helps. You got to think it also helps the Clippers recover, and especially Paul George. Because Paul George is, he especially this past season he's had some trouble staying healthy, and this just gives him time to recover. And especially him and Kawhi, they didn't really play too many games together, and that was always like the big question and argument. They're like, well, they didn't play a lot of games and they didn't have a lot of time to get their chemistry down. And just because we've seen super teams before, like the 2011 Miami Heat, when they first joined together, they didn't win the title the first year. They made it to the finals but lost to the Mavericks. But they didn't win because their chemistry just wasn't. They weren't in full tip-top shape. And just because you have that all-world talent, in bunches like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, and you still have like Pat Bev and Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell and certain bench pieces, Landry Shamet. There's so many, dude. The Clippers are deep, man. And we just think of all that. It's like, the Clippers are right there too. Another team is the team out here, the Denver Nuggets. I really think the Denver Nuggets have a shot this year as well. Especially after you see the pictures of Nikola Jokic. Our boy Joke out here is the Joker's looking skinny. I don't know what happened, but he looks like damn near like me. He's almost as skinny as me out here. Speaking of which, I look pretty good from this angle though, huh? He looks almost as skinny as me. I don't know what's up with Jokic, but that's I think it's a good sign. And then you just see Jamal Murray. He seems pretty confident. He's like, I think we have just as good of a chance of winning as anybody. So when you hear that kind of confidence, I think that's a good sign. The Celtics obviously are another team, just because they're just deep. They're deep in every facet, and that's a team that I don't think you'd want to play. And they're kind of rival with them. The Philadelphia 76ers are another team that I'd be a little worried about. It's like that's a team that certainly could win it all. And even Joel Embiid's saying that now. He's like, you know what? I think we're a team to beat. Hell with what everybody else is saying. I think we're the team. I think they could be. There's no doubt, right? So yeah, I just think there's a lot happening with the NBA. It's like, will that even happen? Will postseason even happen? Like I think I've said before in a previous video, I think it's kind of important that it does, because this was like a monumental season. When there's already going to be kind of an asterisk, with this season, regardless. But I think you kind of do have to finish it out. I think there should be a champion at the end of the day, and either way, there's always going to be someone saying something. But I feel like if the Lakers win or if the Clippers win, that's kind of what people were expecting almost anyway at this point. But I feel like, if a team like, the Rockets or something like that, I feel like if they win, people might be like, oh, well, whatever the excuse. Make an excuse, right? Yeah. There's another sports topic, and I think it's like I keep saying, it's kind of like a weekly update at this point. But it's getting more interesting by the damn day, I swear. And that is baseball. Will baseball be coming back? Because according to the commissioner, Rob Manfred, who's kind of a bozo, obviously, especially with his comments on his own trophy, the commissioner's trophy, calling it a piece of metal earlier this offseason or this year. Our boy Rob was on E. ESPN with Carl Ravage. Carl Ravage, who was on E. ESPN, with 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 Carl Ravage, w the legend, Karl Ravitch. And he said that there will be baseball this year. There will be baseball. 100%. Said guaranteed there will be baseball this year. But, how is that going to happen? Because when you're seeing these reports, both sides are so far off in negotiations that there's just no way that they're ever going to agree upon something, at least a deal in time to set the season. So it almost seems like he's going to, institute a 48-game season, and basically just say, you're playing. It doesn't matter. You don't want to play, don't play. But we'll replace you, you're playing. And I think that's dangerous because, that could lead to, players kind of suing the league, I think. Because I don't think from what I've heard from Jeff Passan on the Pat McAfee show, shout out to Pat McAfee and the boys, and Jet Passan, shout out to Jet. From what I heard from Jeff, he was saying that, the players can't strike legally. It's not in their contract. They legally cannot strike. If they did, it would basically, I don't know if it would kill the league or something like to that extent, but they literally cannot strike. So what can they do? I think they can file grievances against the league, and but at a certain point, if Rob Manfred, if he's just gonna basically be like, what, we're having a league, I don't give a damn, then how can you stop that? I don't know. Excuse me. I don't know how you stop it. I really don't. And it's gonna be so interesting because I know that they have to get this done, and that's kind of they have had to have had this done for over a week now. I think almost 2 weeks, and they're still kind of trying to work on this and work on that, and it's kind of crazy because you got to remember this is all happening, I believe, from the owners not wanting to lose an additional $330 million. Which, if you think about, would be about 10 to 12 or 13 million per team, somewhere in that range. I believe 10 to 12 is more accurate, but 10 to 12 million per team. The owners are not willing to lose out on. They're willing to risk the entire league. They're willing to risk everything for $330 million, for an additional $330 million on top of, I believe, the $3.5 billion that they were already losing. Man, that's such a tricky one, man. Tricky scenario. And yeah, I'm really not sure I'm not sure what the answer is. It seems like Rob Manfred already has the answer. There will be baseball. But obviously there won't be minor league baseball, and they've already kind of canceled those seasons, but even still, you're kind of seeing that. I believe a majority of the teams have kind of declined to pay their. You can't quote me on this, but I know most or some teams have declined to pay their minor league baseball players, the rest of their salary for the season, which is about $400 per week. And then I saw the Oakland A's recently came out, and they were kind of pressured to kind of reverse course because they initially were one of the ones who kind of publicly announced that they weren't going to be able to, pay the players the rest of their salary, and that definitely obviously received some backlash because it's kind of you can't pay $400 per week per player, really? Because like I touched on episode or two ago, those are the future, coaches, the future, managers. Those are future, everything. That's the future of baseball right there. Just because they're not playing in the major leagues and just because they're not making the big time, not making the show per se, doesn't mean that they're never gonna, that their life isn't gonna continue in baseball. That that's not what they're committed to for their whole life, because that's all they've ever really known. And that's all they've ever worked for, or worked towards, and it gives them, it kind of incentivizes them to, to continue on, and it doesn't let them know that their own sport quit on them, when they needed them the most. And I think that's the most important thing. Baseball didn't quit, or at least some franchise didn't quit on their own minor leaguers when they needed them the most, when they didn't have a job, when they didn't have money coming in, they didn't have a season to really look forward to, they were able to rely on these owners and these teams that they've given their blood, sweat, and tears for, They were able to rely on them to be paid for the rest of the season, while also probably having to worry about getting another job and this and that. So I think it's important. It's good to see that, like, the Oakland A's, shout out to the Oakland A's, honestly, because, I did work for the Oakland A's organization. I was a camera operator part-time for the Vermont Lake Monsters, which is low single A baseball team in Burlington, Vermont. Shout out to the Vermont Lake Monsters. I love you people out there. I love the Lake Monsters. And I hope that they can have a season. I know it's doubtful. I know it's not looking good. And, I saw that they posted the other day that they're hoping for an update soon from Major League Baseball on, the outlook of not only the minor league season, but baseball altogether right now. And it's pretty clear that it's not going to be a minor league season. But, I hope that, something comes from it, that, because I know that they were thinking of shutting down certain minor league teams, and or at least the certain minor league systems, and developing a new one. But there's those minor league baseball teams are so important to some of those communities and some of those cities, because they're everywhere, and that's such a great way to not only a great way to get your family out to a ball game, but get your kids interested in the sport of baseball, and that there's so much more happening in baseball than what you see on TV, because that's the knock against baseball. That's boring as hell to watch, and I don't want to watch baseball. It sucks. It's boring, but it's not. And when you play it, and when you know what's happening, and when you understand the game, and when you've been raised by the game, and that's what you've been going to for years, and you go to like these minor league baseball games, and you go with your parents or your family. That's why I know, it almost kind of gets me emotional thinking about it, because it's like, that's why I grew up on it. I love going to those Lake Monster games when I was a kid, and they weren't always the Lake Monsters. They were the Vermont Expos at one point, and they had Champ as, and UP and Champ as, well, it was Champ. Yeah. Shout out to Champ, wherever you are in Lake Champlain. Come see me sometime. But no, when they had Champ and all that, it was like, it means something, It's such a great way to get the family out, and it's, it's cheap to go to a game. The tickets aren't expensive, and the food's not expensive, and they have great promotion. It's for family, So that's why when I see like MLB, it's just you're cutting all that out for what? To save what, man? You're not going. I don't think they're going to these local parks, in the summer and seeing the joy on these. Obviously the joy doesn't translate to. Well, the joy doesn't translate to bottom line and all that. Yeah, sure, I know it doesn't, but joy translates to the bottom line because, it translates to a lifelong fan, and that's someone who's, going to invest in baseball, for the rest of their life, hopefully, and, bring their kids to a game one day, instead of, being like, yeah, we had a minor league baseball team when I was a kid, but, Major League Baseball eventually shut them down, and, that was the stadium over there. Yep, it was historical Centennial Field in Burlington, Vermont. One of the oldest stadiums in the country, but, the MLB shut them down. I don't want to see that. That's the last fucking thing I want to see with this, and I hope Major League Baseball does right across the board, man, because I love baseball, but, to just see it as like a dying sport, it doesn't have to be, and it shouldn't be, man. It's America's pastime for a reason, or it was, and it should be. That's based like Uncle Joey says. Shout out to Joey Diaz. Like Joey Diaz says, man, baseball is as American as like hot dogs and fishing and swimming on the lake, or swimming in the lake, and everything, man. Baseball is as American as all that, grilling, all that. Everything you think about the summertime, you think baseball. Going to a game, hanging out, beautiful day game or something, So I hope baseball does right, man. I'm just kind of going through topics right now. I'm just kind of making sure I touched on just about everything. My voice my voice is kind of going. I know Facebook over here. Shout out to anybody who's watching. It doesn't look like anybody's watching live right now, but shout out to, I'm trying to go live here on Facebook at the same time. I'm trying to involve that a little bit more, just because it's a different way to, bring in views, obviously, and viewers, and promote the show and this and that. But it's obviously a little different because, the way I'm doing it, I've said it before, the way I do it like this, the video version cuts out from time to time. But over here on the Facebook, or the video version on my phone over here, it plays constantly. So it's seeing me walk, get up and move and, fix this and that. So, but I'm enjoying this. I'm happy. I was excited to do this show because I had so much to talk about, and there really is. I could honestly do this I could keep going, This is already about to be an hour. Or is over an hour, just about an hour here. And, I was thinking, I was like, this is probably going to be one of the longer ones. I know the other day I went very long when I was doing my little living room session, which I'm going to try to do more coming up. I'm also going to try to do this weekend. I'm going to try to do one either tomorrow night, which would be Saturday night, or Sunday night. And then come back again next week for another episode after that. So I'm going to have a couple more episodes coming for you people here coming up in the next couple days. But I'm not done yet here. I still got another topic or two. And, one of them was kind of a surprise. I was at work this morning. And I was, I'm just listening to a little podcast here, listening to the church show, what's happening now. Once again, shout out to Joey Diaz, and also listening to a little McAfee and Hawk sports talk, like I said, shout out to Pat McAfee and AJ Hawk and the boys. And, all of a sudden I just kind of looked on YouTube and I saw that Dave Chappelle posted like a new special on YouTube, and titled 8:46, which is obviously the time of the video of the horrific murder of George Floyd. 8 minutes and 46 seconds, which is hard to imagine and believe, really. But yeah, when I saw that, I instantly clicked on it. And I think it was only up, it had uploaded within the hour or so that I clicked on it. I was like, I couldn't really believe it. I saw it was like a half hour long. I'm like, is this a special? What is this? And that I thought it was tremendous. It's not really like a comedy special because it's not really comedy. It's not. It's more of like a social commentary in Dave's perspective. Which is obviously not only like a right one, but like a well thought out, like educated, sane perspective. It's like one that people want to hear and need in this time right now. Like that's Dave Chappelle, man. That's Dave Chappelle, and yeah, just to hear him talk. And he was talking about like his experience in like the Northridge earthquake, I believe, when he was living in LA when he was young, and saying that 30 seconds during that earthquake and like the shaking of the house, it was so violent that it felt like forever. And that was like the first time that he felt like he was, one of the first times where he was freaking out or gonna scream out in panic. He was gonna literally yell in panic. But he didn't. If he survived, he said, and it's a funny joke if you think about it. But it's really it's an incredible kind of self-awareness to think like he didn't want to scream out because if he survived, he didn't want to remember how much he panicked and how much he freaked out in his yell. And he said that was only 30 seconds. And then to think that 30 seconds and then George Floyd's murder was 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That dude and then you just stop and think about it. You're like, holy shit, man. Obviously, I've been thinking about it too. It's like a minute. If you ever just look at the clock and it has like the seconds on and you just watch the seconds go, you're like, dang, that was a minute. There's like a decent amount of time in a minute, right? Like 1 minute, 60 seconds has a decent amount of time where you can do some things, right? And then you just think 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Someone has their knee on your neck And yes, that is unfathomable. And the guy's crying for help and he can't breathe. And yeah, I just it's unfathomable. I literally can't. I don't want to imagine. I don't want to imagine. That's got to be the most horrific way to go. And I don't know. Just hearing Dave's kind of perspective on the whole thing is not only was it kind of like fascinating because it looked like it was filmed basically a week ago, and so they really put it together quick, and the production is obviously low. It's basically just like camera shot and Dave just going on a small stage in Ohio somewhere, probably is near Dayton where he lives. I think he lives near Dayton or outside Dayton, Ohio, and so. Yeah, it was just on like a small little stage, and he's just talking about just how long that these things have been happening, and like just talking about Eric Garner, how like the dude was just selling loose cigarettes, and he gets choked out on the street, and then not only that, just George Floyd, like the three other cops. The Asian cop with his hands in his pockets, and the other two on the back of George Floyd. Like, it's like I don't know. It's like animal behavior. It's disgusting. Like what the fuck were they thinking? And I don't know. It's that weird look that dude had, and that's why I'm happy to see. His charges being bumped up. But at the same time, people are still calling for that first-degree murder charge. And I think the more you learn about it, the more you kind of have to be like, you know what? What about that first-degree murder charge, right? Something's not right with that. Because when you see that, he apparently George Floyd and this Derek Chauvin, the fucking bozo Minneapolis cop, apparently they had a previous argument at the club that they worked at together, because apparently they both worked security together at a nightclub, and apparently the Derek Chauvin guy, the cop, he was aggressive towards like patrons, and would like spray paint people and kick people out, and I think George Floyd, I don't know if he confronted him one time or like got in an argument, but apparently they did one time, and so that's why people think it was, he did it purposely. He intentionally killed him because of it, and or he knew what he was doing. He knew it was George Floyd, and he knew that. He obviously knew him. How can you not? They worked together for over a year, and apparently they were on separate shifts and all that, but. Even if you're on separate shifts, the people that you work with, and eventually you overlap at one point, and so people are saying it should be bumped up to first degree, and you know what? If the evidence is there that they did argue, and that, I mean, it's hard to prove in the court of law, obviously, that it's premeditated or anything like that, but if the evidence is there, I think it might be worth looking into. But, I kind of wanted to end it talking about this. This is a little deep topic, a little bit. I don't want to go too deep on it. But I'm seeing a lot of people talk about, like, white privilege on social media and, and, like, what is it? And, I don't feel like I have white privilege. You're seeing that like that, and like it's not real, and this, and like there's a whole bunch of people making arguments for why people should understand their white privilege, acknowledge it, and this and that, and then there's people saying that they won't at all, and it's not real, and it's fake, and this and that, but it's obviously real, and one of the ways that you can kind of confirm that it's real is that when you get pulled over. And it's a classic example, obviously. When you get pulled over, I'm not really worried that, I'm going to get arrested or I'm going to get killed or murdered or anything like that. Or, but, that's because I'm never, I don't know, I've never felt like profiled by police. I've never felt like I've been targeted, But But certainly black people have felt that way, and certainly people of, minorities have felt that way, and for a long time. And it's pretty clear when they're more apt to get like maybe a traffic ticket, or get arrested, or get executed for getting pulled over or whatever it is. That's obviously white privilege in itself. When you're more apt to get like a housing loan or a car loan, that's white privilege, obviously. When you're more apt to get like a job, even though you have like the same qualifications, but people just kind of seem to like instill more trust in you off the bat. That's obviously white privilege there. You're more apt to get like a manager position or an executive position or be a boss, even though you have the same qualifications. And you see that across, and specifically in like the NFL, where there's only 3 black coaches: Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Anthony Lynn of the Los Angeles Chargers, and Brian Flores of the Miami Dolphins. When it's only those 3 black coaches, and there's even fewer black GMs, I believe. I believe it's like 2. It's like somewhere 2 or 4, something like that. It's less than 5. I know that. So there is not a lot. I don't even think it's 4. So I think it's under. But when there's that few, and there's 32 teams, that's obviously white privilege there. And that's just a certain sport. That's been happening in, God knows how many sports. I'm assuming in baseball too. I don't know. I just feel like it happens in so many different careers, obviously, and it's just kind of hidden in there. And then you just see it with, like I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the show, like with the laws. How laws are tailored towards incarcerating black people more, or more strict sentences for people of color, minorities or anything like that. And it is true. There's no doubt about it. I don't know how you can deny it. And I think when you deny it, you're just avoiding the conversation that has to be had. Like when people are like, we have to have these deep conversations and these sensitive conversations. That's exactly what people are talking about. And people don't want to have that right now, but you have to at a certain point. And when you just keep sweeping things under the rug, you keep denying it. You keep denying people's voices and people's cries, pleading for help and want to be heard, and just want to have the same job opportunities and want to have the same life opportunities, getting the same loan opportunity, everything. It's you can't deny you can't deny that. It's just base. I feel like it's just basic knowledge. It's basic fact at this point. And when entire segments of people are yelling and crying for help, you can't ignore people, and you got to have conversation. You got to wonder why are they crying for help? Oh, they have been for many years now, and nothing's happened. Nothing's changed. Well, guess what? Something has to change, and it starts with, I think, maybe, fixing the judicial system, obviously. But yeah, I think some changes have to be made. There's no doubt about it. And I think it starts obviously with judicial systems and changing laws, to not target, black people or minorities, or, something's going to have to change. And I think these protests, certainly, at least the peaceful ones, because there's 2 different groups. There's peaceful protesters, and then there's rioters and looters and all that. And, 2 different groups, and certainly the peaceful side has certainly made some a positive impact, and certainly some positive changes have already been made. But yeah, that's about it. Like I said, I'm probably going to come back this weekend for another episode, and going to try to check in on you again then. But I hope you enjoyed watching it this week. I hope you enjoyed listening. I appreciate you wherever you might be, out there on Facebook, out there on the interweb, on YouTube. But yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you wherever you might be. This has been Living Color with Matt Woodward, signing off. Thank you, and have a great weekend. We'll see you soon. Peace. Peace.